Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Alpha 3.6.0 has been working its way through the PTU and it's getting closer to release, but there are still major issues with hover mode and some other blockers as well, and I wanted to take a very quick look at the fixes that the 3.6.0 R patch brings, as well as starting to address the sort of like VTOL and hover mode, because it is starting to look at those things now and do some fixes for that. And I want to look at the system as it stands at the moment and my problems and things I like about it as well with hover mode. So feature updates for the latest PTU are they disabled hover mode when not in atmosphere. Hover mode should now no longer cause players' ships to get stuck in no-fly zones. All misfires now trigger at lower thresholds, including criticals, but are less frequent. So you have a very, very low chance of criticals, even at low thresholds, sort of damage, but it's not particularly frequent. It just happens sometimes. Further fixes for face over IP to make animations play player to player a bit better, but also it seems to track much better at different angles. FOIP now. Bounty Hunter AI ships that spawn as part of the environmental missions should no longer despawn in front of players. They fixed an issue that caused the hacking terminals to be unusable if a player aborts a hack. Players should no longer be required to accept a customized character every time they log into the persistent universe. That is a major improvement. The scanning ping particle waves, when you scan, should no longer come from the landing pad rather than the vehicle. The Hurston security depot should no longer appear to be underwater. AI Valkyries and Caterpillars have now been switched to the gunship type of AI behavior for when they're flying around and shooting and attacking, and they've also fixed 2 client crashes and a server crash. There are still a few known issues that they're powering through. Security reinforcements aren't working, hacking chips can fall through the world, there's frame rate performance issues in first person, textures sometimes display across visors, and AI ships have wing wobble. There's lots of other issues as well with performance and hitching and AI not working as intended beyond just the wing wobble and stuff like that as well that they are working through. ESP, stuff like that they'll hopefully get into a good state for 3.6 Live. Hover mode, though, is something I wanted to talk about in a bit more detail. So hover mode is starting to be addressed now in that patch, but also it looks like it's going to be a focus for the next few PTUs. I'd also expect the next couple to either tweak it to be in a good place or potentially even temporarily remove it if they can't get it into a good place, although I think that they're more likely just to tweak it and iterate on it. There is a massive lack of precision for landing in hover mode, at least for me. Even with velocity and acceleration control, the current VTOL hover mode is too floaty, unresponsive, and then suddenly you'll be moving too fast or drifting into a wall or the ground. I have no trouble landing on flat areas or open landing pads. The real challenge is, I find, in landing something like a Valkyrie at Lawville on Hurston. Those enclosed landing pads with medium or large ships, that they have tiny little boxes that are around the same size as the ship. And if you are floating slightly and the lack of precision, you just sort of like clip something, it just explode, you turn your ship over, whatever. You don't have the precision to go up and down very easily while also remaining perfectly stable. Hover mode has some great points, though. It makes atmospheric flight more dangerous and feel different. It gives your ship more weight. It makes sense for ships wanting to engage in ground combat to lose some of their speed, so they're not super OP. Ground forces and defenses can attack them. They can repel ships potentially. Ships in atmosphere have to sort of like work out the risk and reward, and they fly and move differently. It's not just space when you're flying around in atmosphere. And on paper, I like the system. At the moment, it just lacks a few features that they're trying to implement and working towards. General sort of like balance and improvements and tweaks for it, yes. One of the most requested things, I think, and something they are implementing at some point, is the toggle for VTOL and hover mode. That's going to give a lot of extra control for pilots. The 3D sort of ground sim landing camera that they used to have for landing pads, they want to bring that back, the sort of like low-res terrain view, so you can see on your sort of radar where that is, the ground level and exactly what the ground looks like is the idea. So that would be planned to be used for all terrain and not just landing pads. That would be really, really useful. Some bits that I would potentially like to see, though, is space brake and strafe while in hover mode working properly. Holding sort of X at the moment stops your ship, but then you can't move at all. You sort of stop and try and level out, I want to be able to strafe and move up and down in a more precise way. Also, when you release X, your ship does at the moment just drift, sometimes quite fast in a direction, even if you appear to be leveled out, which can lead to a lot of pain and annoyance and really tiny, smallest movements when you're trying to land. And it can be very sort of like just time consuming, and it's not a great mechanic. I don't want to have to spend minutes and minutes trying to work out how to land when I'm really close to a landing pad. Auto stabilization of some form could probably help with this a lot. In the short term as well, enabling auto land at a wider range and distance. So once you get near a hangar, you can auto land just by holding N at a much longer range. That would probably be pretty good in that situation if you don't want to really sort of like precisely land yourself. When it comes to precision landings, I want control, but I don't mind things being dumbed down for basic landings at landing zones. I'm not going to be fist-bumping pilots about how sick their landing was at Levski. Boom! You did it, dude! You landed at this normal commercial hangar. Maybe cool combat landings, I'll give some high fives out for. That's the sound of a high five, apparently. There are some tips my BoredGamer's short-term hover mode tips. The third-person camera can be tempting and sometimes useful when in VTOL at the moment, but don't use it in all situations. It might be okay for lining up, but I find it much more useful to use the first person in a ship's sort of like cockpit and use the HUD indicators as part of flying. They're incredibly useful. You should learn the sort of like shape and how far your nose juts out for your ship, like you would when you're learning to drive. If you're learning to drive in real life, you need to sort of like know how long your vehicle is and how wide and all that sort of stuff. So once you get used to that, that helps a lot. But the nose and horizon indicators on the actual ship HUD when using VTOL are incredibly useful. If the nose indicator is below the horizon, then you're going to be pitching forward, and you can level out manually very easily with that. There is an indication showing input direction and what direction you're flying in as well, with a little arrow saying if you're going forward or going back or whatever. I typically set my velocity control, though I do change it on the fly, to around 50% of my SCM speed when trying to land or do precision maneuvers. I just find it very useful, so like halfway between your SCM speed and 0, so the red line. So between there, that's really useful. And my power throttle, which is right alt and mouse wheel, I set between 70% and 45% based on my needs. Again, doing that sort of stuff on the fly is actually really useful, but there's a lot of things that they could make it a lot more simple when just trying to land quickly, simply, and easily. I don't want it to be overly complex. I mean, I know some people love the extra immersion and everything, but with something basic and simple like that, I think you should just be able to do it, and it worked fine before. Hover mode I do like, I very much like it on paper, but as the PTU is open to all backers, I recommend you give hover mode a go in the latest PTU and tell me what you think. This is one of those features that does very much benefit out of short-term feedback that CIG can rapidly implement and iterate on. With hover mode, I do think it's something that they can get in a good state for live and then further iterate on it after that as well. I like the idea of it on paper, I just want there to be some ways of leveling out a bit better, some ways of landing a bit more simply and easily, not have to worry so much about me pitching forward when I don't want to pitch forward, and some more precise control that doesn't take me 5 or so minutes to line up with our hangar. But whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For July, it's for an 890 Jump, the mighty luxury ship. To be in for a chance of winning that, just be subscribed to my channel and comment on any of my videos this month. More details down below. This has been donated by My Radar. They make a real-world weather app, and this also has some of the astral bodies from Star Citizen in there too, giving some really interesting information. It's getting more updates and functionality, that app as well, and they're adding the planets into the game too. I'm also shilling for NordVPN. If you're looking for a VPN, check them out, as they offer many benefits over free services and allow you to more securely and more freely access the internet, as well as helping you be protected while you're playing online. If you're looking for a gaming PC or upgrade instead, consider Shadow as well, a cloud gaming service that allows you to stream a Windows 10 gaming PC environment from a data center directly to your phone, laptop, PC, or other device. It's great for Star Citizen as long as you have an appropriate internet connection. For both of those services, NordVPN or Shadow, please use the code BoredGamer for discount. If you would like to further support my channel and for more Star Citizen content, consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member with that join button below my videos. All the links and all that sort of stuff down below. If you've got any feedback, if you'd like to talk about anything that we've talked today, if you've got any questions, whatever, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the verse.